The Powers Project.
Eva, it's so great to have you here today. I'm looking forward to this show today.
Mhm.
So tell me, you're down in Costa Rica. How are you? How are things down in Costa Rica?
They're amazing. I just moved to this town called Nosara, and if your listeners know, it's just one of the places. Anyway, I'll tell you the whole story, but I just love it here so much.
Yeah, everything I've ever when we talked off air, everything I've ever heard about Costa Rica is that it's just a beautiful place to live. And I haven't
Hmm.
visited yet. I don't know why I haven't, but I haven't, but I need to get down there and check it out.
Yeah.
So normally when I have a guest on, I have them introduce themselves. But today I decided I would like to introduce you because the things that you've accomplished, I just find absolutely amazing. In fact, you've accomplished so much that I'm going to have to read some of this off. I could normally just memorize it, but you are the CEO of leadersbreakfree.com. You're the host of a podcast called Leaders Break Free. You are a best-selling author and an award-winning international speaker, and you're a mompreneur. And here's you have such a fascinating story. You went from barely making $700 a month to making $1 million in a quarter within 18 months, and you did this all while being pregnant and then having your child.
Hmm.
Now, I'm sure there are mothers out there who go, "How did you find the energy?" So please tell me your story. Like, how did you do this, and where did you find the energy to do it?
I'll walk you through it. Thank you so much. I love sharing this because, I'm a single mom, and there's a lot of moms out there who think that things just aren't possible and building your business isn't possible. And I'm here to tell you that that is absolutely wrong. And anything you want is possible. And you can do it with having life balance, abundance of time, money, resources, traveling, all of that stuff. So I want to take you back to 2019, right? It was just an amazing year for me. I had just started my business coaching practice, and I wanted to travel around the country, travel around the US, and do a bunch of speaking engagements. And I would go pop in a little women's entrepreneur organization. I would do a workshop for these women. They would sign up for a little consultation. I would talk to them. I would close a client, right? Kind of how it goes in the one-to-one space, right? And then I would duck back in. I would go visit different national parks, state parks, meditate, write, just a whole bunch of stuff. And I just loved it. And I had somebody who joined me for this effort, and we fell in love. And it was just this amazing, amazing time where we were writing books together. We started coaching some clients together as well. And it was just really, really great. I was like, how does this get any better? Right. It was just like, and I love traveling, and we were going around in an RV, and it was just amazing. Right. And it went all great until July 1st, 2019, when I discovered, after 10 years of trying to get pregnant, and I just didn't think that was even possible, but it was like something that I really, really had wanted. I found out that I was pregnant. And 4 days later, on July 5th, in the morning, I found out that I would be a single mom, and I never saw him again since then.
Oh, wow.
Never, 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 never. Literally disappeared, moved to Japan a week later, then blocked me on all social media. And my first thought was, Kurt, like, who is the person? Like, it was just so much shame, like, who's the kind of person who gets abandoned after like 4 days of pregnancy? What is wrong with me? Like, how did I miss this? Just so heartbroken, blindsided, depressed, all of those things, right? And I think, like, when we really hit rock bottom, just the imposter syndrome, like, this idea of being a single mother, like, who wants to hang around single mothers? I just had all these like crazy ideas in my head. So I moved to a little town I didn't even know anybody at, called Pueblo, Colorado. You know, Colorado is wonderful. Pueblo is not. Let's just put it that way. It's like this, a little bit of a hole in Colorado, right? So, but I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be single mom. I can't afford, you know, before I lived in Boulder, which is your nice up and coming, whatever, right? So I moved to Pueblo and I find a rental and I was like, oh my gosh, and I'm going to do this, you know? And then I had to go and cancel 35 speaking engagements for the rest of 2019, right? Because I had 70 speaking engagements lined up for the whole year. And when I tried driving, you know, you mentioned your wife being pregnant, like you might remember this, like you can't even drive. You're so sick. You're so nauseous. I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. That's not, it's just not happening. Plus, now I'm going to be a single mom. I don't have any family living in the country. You can hear in my accent. I'm not actually originally from the US, although I'm a US citizen. My family doesn't live in the US, right? So I'm like, okay, I can't go driving around the country. I'm going to have to figure out how to launch my business online somehow, right? Which I went about it all the wrong ways, right? And it was the next 3 months, you know, it was very difficult. I'll tell you that. It was a lot of still the depression and the heartbreak and the grief and a lot of times just apathy. And I'm just like sitting on the couch, like, I don't even want to get up. Like, I'm just going to get up and puke in a bathroom. That's about it. You know, just like, no, I didn't want to eat anything except ice cream from McDonald's. That was just the only thing that was appealing at the time. So all these things, you know, that people go through, I was going through. And then I said, okay, I'm going to build my virtual business online. And oh my goodness, I wish I had me then, or I wish I had some guidance because I did all the wrong things. The first thing I said, I'm going to launch a course, right? Because it sounds like the right thing to do, you know, passive income and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to record a bunch of videos. So I put together the most amazing course you can imagine. It had everything. It had all the bells and whistles. It was everything I knew working with all of my previous clients and da 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 da. And I've been obsessed with business building ever since high school, right? I got my MBA from UT Austin and you know, business is my jam. And I record this amazing course. And then I build this amazing funnel and I drive ads to it and these landing pages and optimize all the buttons and all the copy is on and brand it. And, you know, like, that's right. what most entrepreneurs, I think, do. And then, you know, teleprompter and my videos are like so many videos, you know, short videos, long videos. Oh my God. Right. And we launch it. You know how many people bought it? Take a guess.
Apparently not many.
2.
I was going to say, I should have just said it.
And it was a $57 a month course, right? It's something. I mean, I could like it should have been $2,000 a month, whatever. It was so crazy. Like so much was in there. Like, oh my God. I was like, what? You know? But here's the thing that I learned. Like, that's the first lesson that started coming through. If you actually want to build a million, you know, or multi-6-figure business, you have to increase your capacity to be the level of a leader that can do that. And where most entrepreneurs go first is the hiding strategies, what I call the hiding tactics, right? So they'll go create some courses, they'll go create a bunch of content because that's a safe way to go, right? Unlike you're doing your podcast, you know, you're putting yourself out there. You're not afraid to be visible. But the vast majority of people will do pre-recorded stuff, sometimes not even videos. They'll write stuff, they'll write content, they'll write blog posts, and they'll hide. But in order to become somebody who can, you know, attract the number of clients and you can actually serve them and you can hold emotional space for them, you have to increase your sense of safety, self-love, which you talk about, right? And self-acceptance, being able to be okay with whatever the world comes at you, but you don't get there by hiding, you know, and pre-recording courses. You get there by putting yourself out there, you know, talking to live humans, telling live humans, hey, I have this new amazing program. I want to teach people how to love themselves. You know, you have to be willing to do that, not you in person, but, you know, like entrepreneurs in general. So that started coming through, right? And this thing, like, you have to go to what's difficult. You have to go what's emotionally risky. And if you do that every single day, not to the hard work, not to the things that take a million hours, but the things that are emotionally the riskiest, those are the things that are going to grow you the fastest, right? And they're going to catapult you to the next level in your business, right? And I started doing them every single day. Every single day. You know, if I had a 8-hour working day, that would mean 5 hours of that I was teaching something somewhere. I was talking to somebody. I was, teaching what was uncomfortable. I was talking to people. I was asking them to be in my program. I was on camera. I was on microphone. It was nonstop, right? And that got even more strict as my time bandwidth got next to nothing after Lexi was born, right? So some of the things I did, I know you asked me before, okay, what did you actually do? Do you want to hear about it? Like some of the strategies?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think people want to know, like, okay, what does that mean? Put yourself out there, because you have
Mm-hmm.
a podcast, but I've listened to your podcast, and your podcast is great. It's like anywhere between 5 to 12 minutes and just this great advice on each one of them. So it wasn't, from what I can see, unless you
It
did,
wasn't a podcast. Yeah.
yeah. So it wasn't about you putting your, like, you weren't saying, "Hey, I've got a course." You were giving people advice. So what?
Mm.
So what did you mean as far as putting yourself? Like, did you go on Facebook Live or Instagram Live, or how did you put yourself out in front of people?
Yeah. We started doing virtual retreats. And first we first started experimenting with other stuff. We were doing like Facebook Live challenges and whatever. And that blew up in our face very early on because Facebook wasn't showing anything to anybody at some point, right? And so we said, okay, it was my VA at the time and myself. Now we have a team of 5. It's a different thing. But we said we're going to get a bunch of people together on Zoom for 7 days. And we're going to give them an experience. We're going to do guided meditations with them. We're going to put them in breakout rooms. We're going to have them have the breakthroughs during the retreat, right? So it's a free virtual retreats that we do. And we've experimented with different lengths, and we've done 2.5 day, 5 day, 7 day, up to 10 day. And really the 7 day has been my favorite so far, right? And, and I usually they're just hour long, 45 minutes long, and I show up for people. And, we just give them our absolute best. I give them everything, I give them the strategies and all that. And at the end of it, I usually say, like sometimes around midway through it, I say to people, okay, I want to talk about how to work with us. If you're not interested in that, no problem at all. You're free to jump off, and I'll see you tomorrow for the next lesson, right? For the next thing. And literally we have 90% of people stay. Like, yeah, I want to hear about it, because they like see the experience, and they're like, wow, like this is just blowing my mind. Why would I not? And a lot of it is mindset because, like 20% is knowing what to do, but 80% is emotionally moving yourself through it. Right. So, another sidetrack that, another thing that I teach a lot on because of a lot of lack of self-love and self-acceptance. When we start building our business, what most people do is try to figure out how to protect themselves from uncomfortable emotions, right? Uncomfortable sensations, right? They don't even see it as a sensation. It's this real thing, whether it's embarrassment of not looking, sounding, whatever, perfect, or whether it's rejection, like looking stupid, look like an idiot when you're on live on Facebook and there's nobody watching, right? You're talking to yourself or whatever, right? Which used to happen to me quite a bit, at the beginning, right? Or when you make an offer and nobody buys, or you try to launch your group program, there's like 1% in the group program. They're like, "Where's everybody else?" I thought it was a group program, So is there a lot of these things, and they're so uncomfortable to us, or we're so fearing that somebody will say, "Well, Eva, like, who are you to teach on this? Like, are you certified? Are you qualified?" Like, the fraud syndrome, like all these fears that we have, and we just don't know how to actually be with these sensations, so we manage ourselves to not have to face them, right? is the opposite what you have to do. That's what I mean by going to what's hard and doing these retreats. We have had our clients do them, have never been live, who have never had a speaking engagements, and we push them over the edge. And you say, go do a 7-day retreat, and they do, right? And it's this beautiful transformational thing when over 7 days, you see a person at the start of it, and then you find a completely different person at the end of it. And I'm like, who are you? Like, how did this happen? Right? Because they have to show up in front of dozens of people often for 7 days straight. They don't have a lot of time to prepare, right? Because they get busy. They're over prepared for day 1. By day 7, they're like, oh, I'm just talking, And it's this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. And then goes from there. So just like that, we started doing them. We started doing the virtual retreats. And the first one was a little bit of a flop, to be honest. It was like 3K in revenue, which is like, it might be like a nice thing for some people, but I'm a business coach, you know what I mean? So not good enough. But I said, I'm not going to go throw the next spaghetti on the wall to see what sticks. I just need to get better, right? I just need to get better at making a difference with people.
So
to use this.
May I stop you just for a second? So
Yeah.
you had these Zoom meetings, where did you find the people who were interested in what you had?
Yeah, I'll tell you. Yeah. I'll give you the trajectory first. So our first one was like 3K. The next one was 21K. The next one, 42, then 84. Then we had a little bit of a dip, right? Like 40. And then we went all the way up to 560 has been our biggest retreat.
Wow.
Right. But it's like I said, eye on the prize. I have reverse engineered everything. I know, okay, my conversion rate is about 2%. What does that mean? This is how many people I need to get into my retreats, how many people need to be in seats, how many people I need on day 1, and I can work like that. I can reverse engineer it down and say, okay, this is how many people are going to be there, right? Now, that's how it works for me. We had a client who had literally 8 people register, 4 show up, and 4 wind up in her program painful, and she made 20K. So, and getting people in the retreat, obviously that's a big thing, right? So a lot of what I do right now is, I go on podcasts. And that's a beautiful thing. Like, go introduce yourself, go be a guest on other people's podcasts, and people come to you, right? It's another great thing, partnering with other people, partnering with other partners in the space. Sometimes they refer people to us and they get a percentage, right? So, when I first started, quite honestly, I didn't have that developed. I didn't even have a podcast at the time. I was like, podcast, like just another thing, killing me now. I don't want to do it, right? So at the time, I literally, I was one of those people, I was like, okay, I have no budget. I ran out of money, right? No Facebook ads. So I go on Instagram, I follow a bunch of people, they follow me back, and I go like, hey, you want to come to my amazing free retreat? I'm going to teach you how to run your business, right? And they're like, yeah, that sounds awesome, right? So I filled my retreats with 200, 300, 500 people. And, it was a lot of work, but I was like, I'm like breastfeeding. I was typing something, sending something Instagram, when I had a free minute, I was sending invitations. It was very grassroots efforts, and, it was like when you're first starting a business, sometimes the fact that you don't have the money, you don't have the time, and you have a baby that you need to provide for is sometimes a really, really great thing, because you have zero time to do what?
Feel sorry.
To overthink, right?
Right.
You can't think about it. You can't worry about rejection. You can't worry about what people are going to think. You're like, I got a baby to feed. Let's just do it, So it was actually really empowering for me. And people loved it. People came. People are very, very kind, very supportive. And it went from there.
So on Instagram, you liked a lot of people or followed a lot of people. A lot of people
Yeah.
followed. Then you started, asking them if they wanted to be part of your free workshop, and they joined your workshop because it was free. So how did that translate into sales? Like, what was because I know it's important. One of the things that's one of the reasons why I don't charge for my podcast, because this is free. I mean, the people, the guests I have on here, the guests I have give so much great advice. I mean, and for people to be able to tap into this and take, for instance, today with you and what you did, great advice you're giving, and they're going to be able to use this in their life, and this is free to them. So
Yeah.
so so you should be able to have something where you can make money off of it, because you are
Yeah.
so much free content, great content that's free. So how did you go from giving the free content into producing money?
Yeah. So here's the thing. There's a big difference between information and implementation,
Right.
you know. And people like the entrepreneurs who come to us, they already know this. They already know this. Like I knew it. Like for myself, I have to have a team of coaches. I have to have a team of people who hold me accountable. And I'm a smart girl and I'm a go-getter and I can get stuff done, right? So, information means that you have a strategy, know what to do, but you don't necessarily aren't trained in how to do it. Like, do you know how to run sales calls? Do you know how to run connect calls? Do you know how to picture on camera? Do you know how to teach effectively in retreats? Do you know how to put a program together, right? All of these things we do in a program. In our free retreats, we give them so much clarity. It's like mind blowing. And you know what? Some of them go do it on their own, right? And then they come back and they're like, okay, I'm a client now, right? It works, right? And a lot of them just like, okay, I need you. So how it works, in marketing and sales, you sort of look at the customer journey as an A to Z, right? This is so great. Like you used to help people lose weight, right? And you have somebody who has 100 pounds to lose, right? So where they're at now is A, losing 100 pounds is Z, right? The marketing and sales component and the content is telling them how to do it, right? So you present them the roadmap. Hey, you probably want to clean up your diet and go whatever you were teaching, vegan or keto or whatever, paleo, I don't know, right? And you're going to have a routine. You're having to alter your lifestyle, whatever. I'm just making stuff up because I don't know your strategy, right? But you give people a sense of clarity, you give them hope, and you tell them, okay, these things in the past didn't work and here's why, right? And then the implementation actually happens with you, or used to happen with you in your training program, right?
Right.
So just like with us, I would make it very clear, this is what's going to get you there, right? And then they join our program and it's literally, step by step, implementing, doing it, learning all the details, anything from handling objections, anything from actually doing the lead generation, how do you go on Instagram and invite, what do you say, blah, 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 how do you run ads? How do you do this? How do you do that? Right. So core part that is super, super important is for everybody to have a scalable programming, right? I will tell you honestly, I'm not a fan of courses because for many, many, many reasons, one of them being it's very difficult to get them to convert if you're not a super duper crazy expert on copywriting. And to become an expert on copywriting doesn't mean that you take a copywriting course. It means you have to know your clients so intimately and so well, you know what they think more than they know it, right? You're just like, you just know them. You just know how they think, right? So, and that happens to people. So people, I tell people, work with a bunch of clients, work with 100 clients, like know them really well in your group program, then go launch a course. Because what you're saying is going to land because you know your clients so, so, so well, right? But, I tell people, if you're first starting out, have some one-on-one clients or whatever, or launch a small group program. It's a beautiful thing. For me, I launched my group program a week and a half before Lexi was born. And it was like another deadline. If she wasn't on the way, I would be still procrastinating about it and being so scared to do it, right? But I said, she's going to be here in a week and a half. I don't have time for one-to-one clients. Literally don't have time for it, right? And, for me, my experience as a business coach was this, like, you can meet with people one-on-one, but they need so much support and they need each other. And for me to sit with them so many hours in a month, like there's so much to teach, it's everything is different. Like if you're working with people on their spiritual development and ego and things like that, like how many times a day do they need a reminder? Like be present, observe, be aware, stay aware, right? Once every 2 weeks coaching sessions, probably not going to make a life-changing breakthrough, right? It literally is work. Like any transformation is work, right? Whether it's business, whether it's in in self-love or spiritual work or whatever you have, right? So that's where group programs become super, super handy because now you have more touch points. They have each other. You have 5 hours a week to invest into your clients. You can do it in one-on-one setting and have 5 clients, or you can have 100 clients and spend 5 hours a week with them. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah.
And then you're getting paid for it too. Then you can provide, for your family, and do whatever you need to do, because, and I did this math for myself, because I said, if somebody like, I said, a little bit more of a backstory. Like when I decided, like when I had a little bit of a breakdown when I was pregnant and my bank account balance was so low, it was like down to $700. And I said, what am I doing here? It was literally like, there's so many stories I could tell you. It was really bad for a while, right? I was literally like applying for WIC, which is like pregnant moms, food stamps, whatever. It was just, it's just one of those things. And I stand there in the line for 2 hours and they give you like a little Visa card and it's a bunch of stuff that I don't even want to eat because it's all gluten and sugar and whatever. I'm like, no, thanks. Right. So a little bit of a health nut too. And then I got like, okay, so this is useless. And now what do I do? And then I drove to the Walmart and I bought this 8.5 by 11 whiteboard. And I wrote 7-figure happy single mom on that. I put in a shower. So I'd be forced to stare at it every time I'm taking a shower. Every time I'm putting shampoo in my hair, I'm going to stare at it and make this happen, like no matter what, right? And the idea is just coming to you, and everything you need starts coming to you. So you got to have your eye on the prize, then you reverse engineer it too. You know exactly, like you have a roadmap. You know exactly when, what, how, what retreats, and then you do the math, which is like, okay, if my first stage was I want to make it to 200,000 in revenue, right? Which, if you get the support, you get the people, if you don't want to be doing all the work yourself, then, that turns into about 100,000 in profits, right? So then you go, okay, if I want to make 200,000 and I have 10 coaching hours a week, because that's all I had, right? 10 coaching hours a week, what does that mean? I would have to be charging $420 an hour. Can I do it in one-to-one? No, I can't do it in one-to-one, right? Because people don't have that kind of money. Mm-hmm. So then having a group program at some point, maybe not at the beginning, but at some point is an absolute must, unless you're serving, super high level clientele that are already at a certain level, like executive coaching or whatever you have. Makes sense?
Yes. So, all right. So let me say this first. You make a great point about writing this down so you could see it every day. I don't think people understand the power of when you write something down. Like you don't even, I've written stuff down and having looked at it, and then I will go back a year after I wrote it down and find out that I accomplished half of what I put on there, like just from writing it down. So when you write it down, you actually see it every day. It really increases your ability to succeed and reach your goals. So that's a great point. Also, one of the things that you hit on is that information, we live in the information age, and I go, the thing is that people always say knowledge is power. And I tell people knowledge is not power. I said applied knowledge is power. You can have all the knowledge in the world, and if you don't do anything with it, it's useless. And so like what you were talking about, where people would go out on their own and not apply what they know because, they need someone to push them. That's why, as a personal trainer, I can tell people how to work out. I can tell them what to eat, but if I'm not there to help facilitate that, they won't do it. And so they need that extra, push, if you will, to keep them motivated, to keep things consistent. And that's exactly what from what I can see, your program does. So, because I was going to ask you said, unless you know how to do all these things yourself, you need to find those people. And I was going to say, well, how do you find them? But I'm taking my understanding from what I got from what you said is that that's part of what you do when people sign up for your program. You show them, like, these are the people that you need to make part of your team so that you can reach your goals, so that you can put the programs that you went out there and put it out there where people want what you have.
Yeah, so maybe not exactly. How coaching programs, so I'll tell you I can tell you after too if you're curious, but the thing is, like, when you put together, I want to talk to your audience, right? When you're putting together a coaching program, right? because they're an amazing thing. All of my clients run their own coaching programs, right? And they're just really amazing, whether it be around business or whether it be around health and fitness or weight loss, or whether it's around, getting out of the emotional roller coaster that so many people are dealing with, especially the past couple of years, right? Or
Right.
whatever kind of speaks to your heart, right? I think everybody, who is listening to this right now might be wondering, like, okay, what's my thing that I want to leave my legacy with, right? And it's usually like whatever the thing is that is closest to your heart, like whoever you want to serve. You're like thinking, okay, I want to serve I want to serve teenagers. I want to prevent a suicide for teenagers, or I want to work with single moms, or I want to work with, women in transition, or I want to empower men to have more grace and self-love, and less hardness or whatever. Right. And that's usually like universe really supports that, because whatever feels good in your heart is usually the thing where you're going to be really, really supported by the divine,
Right.
because people go the wrong ways about it and they do the thing they think is going to make them money, right? Everybody wants to work with high performing overachievers because they think that's where the money is, right?
Right.
And they go there and nothing happens because that's not on your path, right? So you got to go with where your heart is. And then you say, okay, look at the people that I want to serve. What's their Z? They're at A, emotional, crazy roller coaster, right? Really at the effect of things, victimized by COVID and whatever's happening there, not in creation, right? Just self-defeating belief systems and thoughts and just not enoughness and all those things, right? For example, what does their Z look like? Living an empowered life from a place of creation, having the life they really love, really enjoying it, feeling loving towards themselves and towards others, right? So that's their Z. Now you ask yourself, okay, what is the path that took me to get from here to here? Sometimes we're not complete. Sometimes we teach what we need to learn, and that's okay too, right? But what is the path that it takes, right? What is the milestones? What is the steps? What is the experiences? What is the actions that I need to take? Do I need to meditate every day? Do I need to do some, part work, some shadow work, some light work? Maybe I need to disappear into a jungle for a week and do a, plant medicine, whatever it is, right? And then you put a program together around it. Does that make sense? And
Absolutely.
then you go milestone by milestone by milestone, and you roll people into it, and they're helping each other out too. They have accountability buddies. So you provide workshops every week, provide assistance. You can provide some one-to-ones. You do like group coaching and things like that. It's a lot of fun. For example, in our program, we give them the structure, right? We teach them sales, we teach them marketing, we teach them how to create a program, we teach them how to run retreats, we teach them how to do broadcasting, blah, 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 right? But there's a lot more that goes into it, the implementation, right? So we do co-working sessions, they work with one another and they ask for help when they need it, but they have they have 12 months to digest this and get their business off the ground. So that's sort of how that works.
Right. So they have a year to do this, and basically you take them from A to Z then to.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Excellent. So I know that you work with businesses that have 6 and 7 figure incomes. So those of us with 3 and 4 figure incomes, do you work with us or do?
I We do. We have different levels. We do different cohorts. Like we work with beginners too. It just depends where you are. We have a couple of different cohorts, and because people have like, okay, how do I explain this to you? I think business is a little bit of a tool for spiritual transformation. It's going to chew you up and spit you out in every level of business, not so much about the revenue, but it's about where you are in your confidence, in how comfortable you feel with people and things like that. You're going to get stuck with different things, right?
Right.
So typically in the first cohort, with the beginners who are like at the beginner level, they're going to get stuck with sales and they're going to get stuck around, promoting themselves and things like that, versus my highest level cohort. They could be selling all day long. They don't have that problem, right?
Right.
But it becomes about team. It's almost like their Achilles heel, right? they're almost too good at selling and they can't give it up, right? At that point. But it's like, yeah, but you said you wanted to get in a business to actually have a life. So let's get you out of it and let's get somebody else trained at that point, right? So everybody goes through their evolution and everybody goes through different steps. And that's how it has to go, right? Because in the end, we did not exactly come here to accumulate or have our business reach a certain figure. It doesn't even matter. What matters is that we're transforming, that we're sort of moving through these milestones and tackling the whatever comes up. And it's a lot of trauma, that comes up. It's so much trauma. It's like, all the fear of rejection and all those things. Like it all goes back to childhood or before, or whatever. So
I think as I get older, one of the things about getting older is that you care less and less about looking stupid. You just go, whatever, and so when you don't have that fear, you're willing to put yourself out there, where when you were younger, you're like, oh, I can't do that. You're afraid everyone's going to laugh at you or something. As you get older, you don't even care. In fact, I saw a study that was done I think it was by the New England Journal of Medicine of all places, but they were saying the most successful people are between the ages of 60 and 70 years old. The second most successful group is between 70 and 80, and the third most successful group is between 50 and 60. And it's because you just, not only do you have more wisdom, but you just have that, like, you want to do what you love. You're not doing it for necessarily money. Like, when you're in your 20s and 30s, it's like you said, a lot of people are like, oh, follow the biggest producers, and it's all about making the money. But I've found over the years that, the truth of the matter is that even if you were able to make the money, those people are never happy. They're always, they just don't have the happiness, and yet people who seek out what they love, what matters to them, like what you were talking about, which, talks to them and is their passion. It doesn't matter if they make less money or if they or more money. They're happier than they've ever been. And to me, that's what life is about. If you can be happy on less money and do what you love, I'm all for that. And so I think it's
exactly.
great that you put it together to where you can actually make more money and still do what you love. So
Yeah. And for me, my purpose is actually has nothing to do with money at all. My purpose is actually be unconditionally loving. And what that means is a lot what we talked about, it's like you have to love and accept yourself and all your parts that you don't like. And then you stop projecting it out on other people, right? You
right.
stop being triggered by everybody else. So, and I think really building a business is my favorite tool to do that. Because when you have your spiritual intention and you say, I want to become unconditionally loving, which is not easy to do, right? Because everything unloving will basically come out of woodworks, right? And business will literally throw at you all the challenges, everything you need. And life, right? Relationships to that too sometimes.
Right.
But in business, it's the prospects, it's the clients, it's the partners, it's everything. You get a complaint from a client or something, and it's like, okay, how's this making me feel? What is this bringing up? Oh, I don't like this part of me. Oh, okay, got to work with that, and then you heal that, right? You process that emotionally, and then you can be with anything. You start processing it one thing after another, and then you can be with 120 whatever clients and be like, okay, I can handle it, I can handle their problems. But it took me a while to get that.
Well, so let me ask you this question then. What are some of the biggest obstacles that you've seen in people that keep them from reaching the goals even when they come to you? Because I know you talked about the victimization of clients, where clients who come and they're victim, like they play this role of victim, that they can't do this or they can't do that, they don't have time for or money or whatever. Like, is that one of the biggest obstacles, or is the lack of
I think
communication, or what is it?
there's so many. We literally run a call on this every single Monday for 2 hours to talk about mindset, right? So it's like one thing after another, because at every level, as you're moving through the consciousness, as you're moving through the consciousness growth, like at every level, you're tackling something. But kind of what I see, it also depends by cohort, right? Because each person is dealing with a different thing. But what I've seen is that all of us have a little bit of a control freak within us, and how we control the world around us is a little bit different, right? So, I've seen it, like we have some people in our program who are the go-getters, who are the super doers. They just do stuff, do stuff, do stuff. They're very comfortable as long as they're getting stuff done, right? They're checking their boxes, they're comfortable, right? As long as things don't go their way, their launch results isn't what it's supposed to be, or somebody, they have a few rejections. Oh my God, then the self-sabotage starts kicking in, and the disappointment. And then it's like, oh my God, I just need to go through the next spaghetti on the wall so that I keep myself busy, right? They start checking the next boxes. But then the same thing happens again, right? Disappointment, rejection, failure happens. And they're like, oh my gosh, I feel so out of control. Let me try the next thing, right? So they kind of keep going like this. And the other half of people, they control their world in an opposite way. And it's by not taking action, right? So if you can just watch the next training, listen to the next podcast, take the next free Facebook challenge, take the next training, buy the next course, get the next certification, right? Then I will feel like in control and maybe safe enough to do anything, right? And some people have both, go in and out. But, it's all about like a sense of safety. And we all have to learn to trust, like you have the intention, you have this vision in front of you, and you just got to be open, right? Yeah, you take the action, but you also be open, because you're going to get the help and get the resources. Like everything you need is going to start coming to you, so you can actually, you start getting the clients unless you sabotage yourself.
I want one of the things I wanted to talk about is the fact that you offer a free workshop even on your website, leadersbreakfree.com, which I thought was very generous of you to give people more information as far as what they can do. And I always like when people do things like that, because it shows that you truly believe and trust in your product. And you also understand, I don't know if you know who Gary Vaynerchuk is, but
Yeah, of course.
okay, he gives free everything. He gives so much free stuff because he knows that, well, he said, he goes, unfortunately, most of you aren't going to do anything with what I tell you anyway, and so he understands that people need the help implementing things. And so they'll end up buying his books or his products or whatever, because if people who are serious about achieving their goals will do the things that are necessary to do that. And so, because of that, he's been extremely successful, and obviously so have you. Um, I know that you put on events all the time. So what kind of events do you have coming up in the future?
Oh, thank you so much for asking. We actually decided we're going to lay low for the rest of the year and take it easy a little bit, because I really want to dive deep with my clients on some of the things. So our next event is until January 10th, but we decided to do it in January, and we decided to do a 7-day retreat. We're going to go full out, and it's going to be at leadersbreakfree.com/retreat. We're reprogramming the page right now as we speak. But that's going to be like for people who really wanting to kick their year off on the right foot, and have their plan in front of them. And anybody who wants to follow on my podcast, I have quite a few episodes that can be really, really helpful. And if anybody wants to reach out and connect with me, all the contact information on the website or Facebook or wherever you guys find me, and I'm happy to talk to anybody who wants to talk about this.
Now, is your retreat something separate from your program that you have? So you have
Yeah.
and then you have the retreats. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. And on our website, if anybody wants to book a call and talk to us about how we work with people, they can do that too. But our retreats are free. There's lots and lots and lots of people participating. They get to know each other. And over the 7 days, we basically go through the business building blocks so they have clarity about, okay, what is my program going to be? How am I going to launch it? What am I going to do? How I'm going to go to market? What is my brand? What is my passion? We talk about manifestation quite a bit. We talk about telling the truth to yourself, like, okay, here's who I am, accept that, love that, and it's like, okay, what is the next thing that I want to create, the next version of myself. So there's a lot that goes into that. It's just magical, these retreats.
Okay, so on January 10th, what day is that? Do you know?
It should be Monday. Let's hope so.
I normally hold these retreats, like if we're talking about Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, I'm not sure yet. We're going to put it on a website when we know. It's likely going to be 8 p.m. Eastern because that's one of my favorite times.
So people will probably be home from work by that time and stuff, so they can.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, all right. Before we go, make sure we tell everybody where they can find you on your social media. We already spoke about your website, leadersbreakfree.com, your podcast, Leaders Break Free. Which again, I listened to several of your episodes and I was like, wow, this is really informative. I need to come back. You have a lot of episodes though, so it's going to take me a little while to listen to them all, which is great. It means you're doing a great job. So where else can they find you?
Yeah, I would just start with the podcast. I'm not on social media, to tell you the truth. Okay. And I don't want my clients to do it either, be on social media all day, every day. I do the podcast. I run my retreat. My team is on Instagram or whatever. And from time to time on Facebook, but we don't go too crazy. We keep it, we keep it pretty simple.
Basically, you're doing the exact opposite of what everyone else tells you to do, which is you've got to have so many followers on Instagram, so many people on Facebook, Twitter, and all this stuff. And you're like, yeah, you don't need that. So
no, it's like a lot of vanity metrics too, like, right. Yeah, when I did some Instagram thing and I still have some followers, but it's like, when I was doing this, when I was filling my retreats on Instagram, I had like, I don't know, 500 followers. It was not a lot, so it was like, yeah. And so it's not necessary. It's like, you don't have to have 10,000 people here and there. You can, but you have to connect with people. And I think being guests on podcasts can be a really, really good idea. Have your own podcast and have some friends, have some partnerships, and then,
now I know
go from there.
People are going to say, okay, what if I want to be a guest on a podcast? How do I get invited on the podcast?
Just like we connected, just talk to people, post some posts in groups.
And there are Facebook groups that have that talk about podcasts. Plus, there are podcast websites out there where you can either be a guest or
so many. Yeah.
So I want to let people know that you can put your stuff out there and people will find you.
Oh, absolutely. I have too many. I've actually another interview starting in a minute, so
okay. Well, it's we need to let
it's like you can't have you can be on podcasts all day long, even if you're just starting out. It's so easy.
Well, Iva, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate all the great advice. I appreciate your energy and your story, and it's just a fascinating story. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. All right, folks. Well, listen, that was a great show. I loved it. Thank you for joining us, and until next time, as usual, stay safe, take care, and if you want to, wear your mask. Okay. All right, bye.
If you want to.